A man made a restaurant famous. Then the restaurant tried to trademark the word he created. At least, that's what millions of people believed. But after digging into the evidence, I found the real story is even more complicated. A 67-year-old man from Gary, Indiana helped turn a struggling coffee shop into one of the most viral restaurants in the entire country. He made the word tenderism famous. He made people drive hours just to watch him hold up a rib. And when a food critic with 16 million followers flew out specifically to meet him, the restaurant told that critic that he was unavailable. Then one day, the man was gone. Welcome to Anchored Reactions. And we're going to break down the Walter Johnson and Destination Smokehouse controversy, but we're not just going to watch it. We're going to we're going to pause along the way and actually check the facts. We're going to look at the real trademark filings. We're going to talk about what the law says about ultimatums and firings. And we're going to break down the business strategy behind all of it in plain English. One statistic completely changed how I looked at this story, and there's one claim in particular that sounds convincing at first, but the evidence tells a completely different story. So let's watch the original video, and we'll pause along the way whenever there's something worth unpacking.
Destination Smokehouse just did an interview where they found themselves exposing Mr. Tendernism. They believe that Mr. Tendernism is actually the villain in this situation,
Right?
that they did nothing wrong, and that he went out there and lied and misrepresented certain facts to make
Okay.
them look bad and make him look like some poor old man who got taken advantage of. And they're claiming that's far from the truth. Let's do a quick recap for the people who are not familiar with this story or forgot about the details.
Right,
Walter,
right.
aka Mr. Tendernism, left Destination Smokehouse. Destination Smokehouse was a brand that he started to work with and made it famous, right? His
Okay.
Instagram reels made them really, really, really famous, gave them a lot of visibility.
Right.
It increased their sales, it increased their numbers, and made the owners rich.
Good.
The brand itself was doing really well on the back of Walter, aka Mr. Tendernism. Now, when people
Right.
found out that he was not the owner of the brand, they got really pissed off, and they began to push for Destination Smokehouse to give him ownership.
Right.
Fast forward, Walter ultimately leaves Destination Smokehouse, and when he leaves, he tells Cartel Bo and a lot of people involved in the situation that he was fired. And his team told media members that he was fired. And he was
Okay.
not given a good faith opportunity to stay with the brand and get ownership.
Hey man, Texas tenderism is in full effect, man. Them people did my boy wrong, man. They did our favorite uncle wrong as hell, bruh.
All
But we
right.
not worried
All
about
right.
none of that, man, because we already bought the building. We got it down here. We got the barbecue truck down here. So it's connected. However he want to do it. If he want to travel or he want to work straight out his restaurant, he can do what he want. We've been on the phone. It's really happening, man. Them people did my man's wrong, bro. They exploited him. They
All right.
exploited our uncle, man. They exploited him, man. They used him, man. These racist white people use to the fullest of what they can get out of him. And the second he stepped away, because he was doing it out the heart, out the loyalty, they trademarked the word tenderism, fired him, and told him if he can't use it no more, we gonna sue him. So we breaking all that. That's dead. We didn't
All
already
right.
trademarked another way to say tenderism. He good. We give him his own restaurant. He ain't got to pay for nothing. We coming out of pocket for everything. All we ask y'all to do is, man, bless Unc game, man. Go send a
All
couple
right.
dollars to Unc, man. Y'all already know what time it is. Let's get Unc going.
Even the official GoFundMe, where he raised over $100,000, stated that he was fired. Walter was ultimately fired from the restaurant he helped make famous. So
All right, let's stop it right here. We just got the full setup. Walter Johnson, known online as Mr. Tendenism, was the face of Destination Smokehouse. He helped the restaurant go viral. Forbes literally named Tendenism one of the biggest TikTok trends of 2025. And then we just saw his GoFundMe page, the one that says he was fired, the one that raised over $108,000. Here's the tension that the entire story is built on. Destination Smokehouse says Walter was never fired. Walter's GoFundMe says he was. And if Walter wasn't actually fired, then GoFundMe starts to look like a very serious problem because raising money under false pretenses is a crime. It's called wire fraud and it can carry federal charges. So, right away, we have two completely opposite stories. Either Walter was exploited and fired, or he left on his own and misled donors. So, let's keep watching to see what the evidence says.
Destination Smokehouse coming out 3 months later to claim that Walter was not fired and he lied about that is some pretty serious accusations. Because that would mean that Walter scammed on a GoFundMe. That would mean that he raised $108,000 under false pretenses.
Exactly.
So it's either he got fired or he didn't get fired. It's either he was taken advantage of or he didn't get taken advantage of.
Exactly.
Now, everybody around Walter claims that he was fired. They also claim that he was taken advantage of. Because if you made that restaurant, if you took that restaurant from unprofitable, according to their own words, the restaurant was unprofitable. He made no money from it. If Walter took it from unprofitable to millions of dollars in business, to millions of followers on social media, to being a household name overnight, him being fired without equity, without no returns, is wrong and is foul. Well, Destination Smokehouse is saying that's not what happened. So here's what they had to say about the breakup with Walter.
What happened, or what is your relationship with Walter? Because that kind of separation seemed to be the epitome of a good thing that then separated. But what actually happened? Because it was a little inconsistent. Did he leave? Did he stay? Or maybe you could share your side of it, of what happened with Walter Johnson.
It is disappointing. I did not want this to happen. Walter and I have been realizing for like 6 months before he left that this was bigger than we ever expected. And we've already been through bigger than we ever expected multiple times. But this was different. And we talked all the time about how the internet was trying to do their divide and conquer on us. And he would be the first one to tell me, like, Nick, don't worry about it. We're good. Don't let them do this. What I feel happened was the noise got really loud to where people who originally loved Walter started saying a lot of negative things about him that he did not like. And we were sticking.
Negative things like what, though?
Through it, and we were fighting through it together.
I'm an expert on this topic because I've been covering this from the very beginning. What he's referring to is the Uncle Ruckus accusations that was hitting Walter. You know that Leonardo DiCaprio meme where he's sitting down and the black man is like hugging him, like Uncle Ruckus is like hugging him, like, Ma, so we good? That's what people are putting on Walter, because when the situation went viral, when people found out that Walter was not the owner of Destination Smokehouse, there were a lot of content creators, a lot of fans creating think pieces breaking down why Walter should be part owner, why Walter deserved more, why Walter should get the trademark. And when they found out that a trademark was being applied for under Destination Smokehouse or Black Diamond, that set it off some more. So when people were speaking out against Walter, against Destination Smokehouse on behalf of Walter, Walter was doing interviews with Destination Smokehouse telling people to mind their business. They don't know nothing. They can't come between the brotherhood. And that made people refer to him as Uncle Ruckus. So he's referring to that. And he's saying because people was hitting Walter with the Uncle Ruckus accusations and they was turning on him, that now forced Walter to turn on him to placate to the people who was calling him Uncle Ruckus. Now, I don't think that's what happened. I think...
Okay, so Poetic Flacco just introduced what he calls the Uncle Ruckus effect. I want to take a second just to explain this because it is the key to understanding why the story exploded. Now, Uncle Ruckus is a character from the animated series The Boondocks. He's a black man who hates black people and goes out of his way to serve white interests. In modern slang, calling someone Uncle Ruckus means you're accusing them of selling out their own community. And when fans found out that Walter didn't even own any part of Destination Smokehouse, they felt like they had been watching a painful historic pattern play out in real time. Now, here's the context that matters according to the US Census Bureau. Black households make up about 14% of American population, but hold less than 5% of all wealth in this country. The mean wealth gap between black and white households grew to $1.15 million, according to a 2024 Duke University study. So when the internet saw Walter, a 67-year-old black man, making a white-owned restaurant famous without owning a single share of it, they didn't just see a bad business deal. They saw history repeat itself. All right, so let's continue.
What happened here is Walter heard enough times what he's worth, and he heard enough times what exactly like people felt like was him being taken advantage of. And he kind of did his research and looked into where people were sending him. And once he found the information he found, he kind of felt like, damn, y'all right. And that's when his entire attitude and his plans kind of shifted, right?
Okay.
Because Walter was in these interviews defending Destination Smokehouse like his life depended on it.
Right.
When the internet woke him up, he began to look into certain things. And as you're about to hear, Walter was kind of planning on staying at Destination Smokehouse while also building something for himself since he don't have ownership in this.
Okay.
And they're about to admit that they essentially told Walter he can't.
And about 2-3 weeks before he left, he called me one day.
I would say this, that's a conflict of interest from a pure business perspective. You wouldn't want an employee doing something on the outside that's going to affect the business or is going to carry business to other restaurants. All right, so let's continue.
Asking a question about one of the videos that someone had edited and made me look like I said something about him. And I was like, Walt, you were sitting right next to me. I was talking about myself.
Okay.
They're trying to make it seem like when I said that this guy started with 0 and I'm doing this, they think that I'm talking about you. I've said this in other interviews that I started with 0. This isn't the first time I said it. He's like, all right, man, whatever. I'll see you later. So next time I saw him, everything was kind of okay. But the long and short of it, my feelings is the outside noise got really loud. He didn't like it. And we tried to fix it on our own. And outside of that, I can't speak to it anymore. That's really a Walter question. But the opportunity that came to him was something that he discussed with me multiple occasions. And I told him that I thought it was good for him, but I didn't think it was good for Destination. I actually even felt like, again, we were close like that and we built a lot together. So I feel like I had, the right to say this to him. I actually thought that it might not be as good to do this, his new opportunity, because of what we had at Destination. And we hadn't even scratched the surface yet. We had so many things on the horizon that were really special. And as soon as he left, those things almost disappeared immediately.
So,
all right. So just again, that's depending on what he's saying, what the opportunity was. It may be a conflict of interest for the business and for Walter himself, right? So Poetic again, he just laid out his theory. Walter wanted to build something for himself on the side, but the restaurant told him he couldn't. And here is where I need to pause because Nick, the owner, is about to say something on camera that is going to be really important. He's going to admit that he told Walter his outside opportunities weren't good for Destination Smokehouse. Now, think about what that means. Walter's a viral creator. The creator economy was worth over 200 billion in 2025. And Walter's personality and his catchphrase were the product. And the restaurant wanted to own that brand without giving him equity in it. So that's what Nick was saying, and that's basically what Nick was saying just now. So let's continue.
Walter was right. So he didn't lie. Y'all did fire him. You don't have to say it to fire somebody. Yo, this man said, Walter came to me because Walter was presented with a lot of other opportunities, right? People wanted Walter to come and do food reviews at their restaurants and rate their stuff and TV appearances and other things to grow his
Well, like I said, that's a conflict of interest. You're going to take business away from destination where that's where you work. So that's a conflict of interest. So I could understand from the business's point of view. I could also understand from Walter's point of view. He wants to be able to spread his wings, but in order to do that, he's going to have to make a decision, right? Taking business away from where you work is a conflict of interest. And that's what Nick said on camera. I thought it was good for him, but I didn't think it was good for Destination, right? So he's actually admitting that when Walter got outside opportunities, food reviews, TV appearances, building his own audience, the restaurant told him those things were a conflict of interest. Walter had to choose between his personal brand and his job. Now, in employment law, there is a concept called constructive dismissal. It's when an employer makes the working conditions so difficult or unreasonable that a reasonable person would feel they had no choice but to quit. The most direct version of this is an ultimatum: resign or be fired. Some employment lawyers would argue these facts resemble constructive dismissal, but whether it legally qualifies would depend on the specific evidence and applicable law in California. But practically speaking, Walter was told, stay here and give up your personal brand or leave. So let's continue.
Personal brand. He came to Destination Smokehouse after growing their personal brand, after making Destination Smokehouse a national name, after making them famous,
Right.
after giving them 1 million followers and subscribers. He don't even got an Instagram. So he comes to them and say, hey, I want to do my own brand on the side. I want to do videos for myself. I want to start touring. I want to start doing food reviews and making content, but I also want to be a Destination Smokehouse as well. I just want to do personal content on my spare time in my own time.
Right.
This man told Walter, yeah, but like, that's really good for you, Walt. Again, this is like the passive aggressive niceness. It's like passive niceness. Yeah, that's really good for you, Walt, but I don't think you doing food reviews for other restaurants and giving them clout.
That is a huge conflict of interest. How are you going to work here and give food reviews on other restaurants? That is a huge conflict of interest. That's not passive aggressive.
Would really work for us. I don't think that will work for us. Now, how many times do you have to tell somebody, hey, that's not going to work for us?
Right.
Like, you can do that, but it's not going to work for us. How many times do you got to tell somebody that until they get the message? Especially an older guy like Walter, he like, what? Yeah, so you didn't say outright, you are fired, but you told him, hey, it's either that opportunity or us.
Right, that's the ultimatum.
You choose you doing your own personal stuff or you do our stuff. You can't do both. And when you tell the man he can't do both, in as many words as you told him, that's firing him. I feel like after building your brand, after making y'all famous, after making y'all millions, he should be able to do his own personal Instagram page and make his own personal content.
Well, that's what he should do. If he's that much of a face, he can go out and do his own thing. He doesn't really need Destination Smokehouse anymore, you know?
And do his own personal food reviews and build something for himself, especially if he doesn't have ownership in the restaurant. Now, he does explain the ownership part, and we're going to get there. But am I making sense to y'all, bruh? Does that make sense? Like,
to a certain degree, yes, it does. And again, there is an ultimatum there, right? But if he is the face of the company, right, he can take that face anywhere in the US or anywhere in the world for that matter. So he really doesn't need the business destination anymore, right? So let's continue.
Like, do y'all feel like Walter going out and doing his own thing would have took away from what they got going on, so they had every right to tell him choose between us or this? I don't think so, bruh.
And I'm really happy for him. I see him doing a lot of cool things and a lot of people showing him love and respect. And I wanted that for him and us, but for him especially. Even when he told me that he wanted to leave, and I said, I don't think it can work if you leave doing what you're currently doing for Destination. But I think this is a blessing for you that after the 5-6 years that we've known each other, that you can take the word tendernism and go out on the road and build something for yourself, 100% for you. And I thought that was a great thing, you know, all the time. Everybody's talking about percentages and ownership. And Walter not only was offered a percentage of this business, he was paid like an owner while he was here. Unfortunately, and this is a question you have to ask him, I've had papers drawn up for him to review and to decide whether he wanted to sign. It was everything we had ever discussed in our verbal agreement. And he never would follow through with signing anything. And I just felt like whatever it is about the way he is old school, he didn't trust paperwork. He didn't want to be on paper locked in anything. I don't know. Again, that's a question you have to ask him. But as far as I was concerned, what we had was really special. And when he told me he wanted to do what he wanted to do, I wished him well. And I said, listen, you leaving doesn't mean we can't still, you know, get along. Doesn't mean that you have to leave and people have to be mad that you're not with Destination. He's like, man, come on. That's crazy. He's like, you know, man, I'm Destination for life. And I was like, well, you know, we're really close and you know my kids and I just don't want them to have to deal with anything real.
He brought the kids into it, you know, maybe he's trying to guilt him into staying. I don't know.
Before I even got this sentence out, he's like, man, stop. He's like, we're family. So the last thing I said to him, that was a conversation we had before he made his announcement, was
Right.
Nick, he's like, I'm gonna go public. Hopefully I get on an interview with national attention. And when I
Right.
do, I'm gonna clear everything up. So I took him at that. And when he made his announcement the way he did, I was
Right.
really in shock, because my feelings and everybody else's feelings was that he was fired, that he was treated poorly, and that he had to do what he was doing. And it was exactly the opposite.
My dad
Right.
always
Now, Nick, the owner of Destination Smokehouse, he made a major claim. He says Walter was offered a percentage of the business. He also says Walter was paid like an owner, like an owner. He says Walter refused to sign the paperwork because he's old school. Yeah, nay, not too sure. I want to be honest with you here though. I could not verify this claim. There aren't any public records, no court documents, no third party confirmation that Walter was ever formally offered equity. It's entirely Nick's word. But let's think about it logically. Being paid like an owner and actually being an owner are two completely different things. You can give someone a big bonus, but if their name is not on the LLC, they own nothing. They have no legal rights to the company's value. So if Walter really did refuse to sign a contract that would have given him real ownership, that may have been where things got, a bit murky, as they would say. Verbal agreements mean nothing in business, right? But if the contract was genuinely a good deal, why would a wise, experienced man refuse to sign it? We don't know. We cannot verify this claim. So let's continue.
told me free will don't exist when you provide a man with the options.
Right.
If you give me option A, B, C, and D, and only option A, B, C, and D, then I don't have free will. I'm just picking whatever your path is for me, right? If you say it's either A or B,
It's still a choice, though.
well, I don't have free will.
Still a choice.
No, I don't have the will to choose option C. No, you told me, right? So in this situation, it's a firing. You told him he can't do his own personal thing. He can't do the opportunities that were presented to him because you believe it would take away from Destination Smokehouse.
Right.
And what are those opportunities? The things he's doing right now.
Right.
Going to restaurants, doing like reviews, going ahead and cook for celebrities in their home,
Right,
making
right.
content on his own personal page.
Well, like I said, he has the face. He can go do that. He doesn't need Destination anymore. He could go do all of those things and make even more money doing those things by himself. So, again, he doesn't need Destination anymore.
Instead of putting all his content on Destination Smokehouse page.
Right. Exactly.
You gave him the option. You either do your own thing and build your own personal brand, or you stay with Destination Smokehouse. Now, again, I didn't see the contract, so I can't tell you. I don't know why he didn't want to sign a contract. But
Neither did
after
I.
seeing how y'all giving it up in this regard, bro, son, I don't know. I don't know, bro, son. After seeing how y'all giving it up here, I don't want to know what was in that contract, bro. But a contract has very well been intact in good faith. I'm not putting that on y'all.
Exactly, yeah.
But if that old man who was wise, if he read that contract and he said, nah, this no good, then we got to hear from Walter why the contract was no good. But I don't think we could just take your word for it and assume that you gave him a perfect contract.
That is true. We can't just take them at their word either, It's a two-sided affair.
That gave him all the W's and everything he wanted, and he looked at that and said, yeah, I don't want equity in $1 million business. I don't think that's how that works, right? Especially after he got fired.
Now, imagine you're a chef and you invented their most popular dish, and one day the boss says, you can't post food videos on your personal Instagram anymore. You can't appear on TV. If you do, you're out. That changes the nature of the relationship. You're no longer just doing your job, you're being asked to limit your own future opportunities. In the creator economy, your personal brand is your most valuable asset. So asking Walter to give that up was asking him to give up his future for his present.
Now, he did say in regards to the trademark that they were treated poorly in that regard because they applied for the trademark on behalf of Walter, but people took it and framed it as if the trademark was stolen. But again,
all right,
Walter told us that. Walter told us in that GoFundMe that when he left, y'all told him he couldn't use tenderism anymore.
All right.
And he had to fight for it. Y'all fired him, told him he can't use the business name or tenderism on his personal page, and he had to navigate around it by adding Mr. Tenderism to it.
All right.
So that's a Walter and you narrative. Now, we weren't there. It's a he said, she said. And if we have to decide who we believe, bro, we're going to probably believe Walter. Because that old man don't look like he just out here lying on people, man.
That's
now
one
the
way to look at
ownership
things.
part that you just spoke of, is that similar to what happened with the trademark?
So the trademark, that's totally different. Okay. So trademark, I wanted nothing to do with back in 2024. Walter Walter was shopping, he told me, and some guy in a grocery store came up to him and mentioned tenderness and said, hey, you should trademark that. Another person said something similar to him a few days later, and he came to me with it. I was like, listen, Walt, I don't know anything about this. Back 2024, like I said, we weren't making a lot of money still. Revenue was coming in, but I was focusing on not selling out every day. We were cooking off site. We had one smoker to cook for all these people that wanted to come in and eat. So I wasn't really thinking about it. And if anything, Black Diamond at the time had more resonance than tenderism. So to me, I was like, listen, Walt, I'm not really interested, man. If you want to try and do it, go ahead. So he tried to do it on his own. And about 3 months later, he got an email and a text message basically saying that it didn't go through. And I don't know when he shared that with me. He might have shared it when it happened, but only time I remember actually seeing it is he showed it to me on his phone and had me take a picture of it. Was about a few days after someone else had registered for tenderism first. So I was only registering it for him. He was 100% aware of it. The attorney that I was working with recommended, because of the person who'd already filed, it would be a lot easier to use destination as the entity to get the trademark because of how we've used it.
Now that Walter has left.
All right. So that's the trademark aspect of it. Right. The guy Nick just claimed that Destination Smokehouse filed for the tenderism trademark on Walter's behalf. That they were trying to protect Walter. And I pulled the actual USPTO, that's the United States Patent and Trademark Office filings, and what I found completely changes the story. Right? Destination Smokehouse filed their trademark application on December 6th, 2025. But here's what no one is talking about at the time. Charlotte-based attorney named Kenneth Harris had already filed 2 trademark applications for tenderism on November 21st, 2025. That's 15 days before Destination Smokehouse filed. Harris had been watching Walter's viral success and wanted to make sure the word stayed in the hands of the Black community. So Destination Smokehouse didn't file to protect Walter. They filed because they were in a race to own the word that was making them famous, or at least that's what it would seem like. And they lost that race by 2 weeks. Now, here's the part that is really interesting. Under US trademark law, you can transfer a trademark to another person at any time. It's called a trademark assignment. If Destination Smokehouse truly registered the trademark for Walter's benefit, the simplest thing in the world would have been to immediately assign it to him. They didn't transfer it immediately, which raises questions about whether their actions matched their stated intention of protecting Walter. Instead, they gave Walter a deadline to legally challenge their application in court. And here's the ending that the video didn't cover, or at least didn't get to cover. On March 4th, 2026, attorney Kenneth Harris officially transferred the tenderism trademark rights to Walter Johnson. That's at least Walter Johnson Senior Harris said, "You deserve it. You created it." All right, let's continue.
Left. Why is there a holdup in Walter getting a trademark? Like, there's a holdup in Walter getting a trademark because they're giving you guys a deadline to challenge it, and you even admitted to such in this video, right? That your lawyer told you the deadline to this is is when y'all have to challenge it, and she's been asking you about it, and you've been ignoring her.
Right.
You don't have to. She's your lawyer. You could tell her, hey, we're not challenging it. Actually, listen, as a matter of fact, assign whatever trademark we got approved for, assign that to Walter, right? I don't want nothing to do with tenderism, as you said in this video. But you said you don't have any use for the trademark. You don't want the trademark, but yet you didn't assign a trademark, and up until now, there's been a hold on Walter getting a trademark because they've been waiting on you guys to challenge it.
Right.
So if you didn't want anything to do with the trademark, you could have been assigned a trademark to Walter and declined a challenge a long time ago. You didn't. So I don't know what to believe here. Y'all let me know in the comment section. What do you guys think about this, man? If you're still watching this video and you want
all right, so I'm gonna stop the video there. Right. Flacco wrapped it up pretty fairly, I think. He acknowledged that Walter made mistakes, specifically not signing contracts, while also looking critically at how the restaurant handled his exit and the trademark. I agree with that statement. And Walter, I think Walter has won. He won the battle. He's free to do whatever he wants to do. And he didn't win because the law protected him automatically. He won because an attorney he had never met, filed a trademark on his behalf and then handed it over for free. That's not a system you can rely on. That's luck. And the lesson for every creator watching is this: you cannot afford to rely on luck. So let's bring this all together, right? What does the evidence actually support? The evidence supports that Walter Johnson was the creative engine behind Destination Smokehouse's viral success. The evidence also supports that Walter was given an ultimatum to stop building his personal brand. The trademark situation is the clearest piece of evidence we have so far. Destination Smokehouse filed 15 days after someone else did, and they didn't immediately transfer it to Walter when the controversy started. Now, what remains uncertain? We cannot verify whether Walter was genuinely offered equity and refused to sign. We don't know what was in that contract. That part of the story lives entirely in Nick's and Walter's account, and he hasn't confirmed or denied anything publicly. So the creator economy is worth hundreds of billions of dollars, but most of that money flows to the platforms, the brands, and the businesses, not to the people who actually create the value. Walter Johnson is 67 years old. He has his trademark, he has his name, and he has the community that refused to let him disappear. Whether you agree with Walter, the restaurant, or somewhere in between, one thing is clear: understanding contracts, trademarks, and ownership matters long before disagreement ever happens. So, if you like the video, drop your comments, like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.